Hello and welcome back then to the Andy Holding Speed Figures YouTube channel with the latest update we have from the weekend's action. Delighted to say Sam Turner here, joined by Andy. How are you doing, Andy? How's your form?
Pretty good, yeah. Been about a week now since come back. Managed to pick up where I left off with regards to form. Thanks to you guys, obviously taking the slack, made life a little bit easier. But yeah, got back into it okay. Yeah, and the weekend was pretty good, wasn't it? We had, I think we had a couple of winners on the selector. So yeah, it's going in the right direction.
Absolutely. Looking back to sort of the weekend and how that panned out, really, with the Coral Adonis juvenile hurdle. Probably we're getting also very much into the realms of Cheltenham now. So there aren't that many horses that are going to influence what's happening at Cheltenham. But one horse that might do is Knight Salute, who is probably emerging as along with Porticello, the premier UK juvenile. He won very smoothly in the Coral Adonis, took his record to 5 from 5 over hurdles, and I thought it was a clever piece of placing really from Milton Harris, who has nicked a grade 2 there with a cheaply bought horse from Andrew Balding, and to add to some nice prizes along the way heading to Cheltenham.
Absolutely, Sam. I mean, for me, this also been the story of the season. I mean, he looked a real back number with Andrew Balding, as you say, picked up very, very cheaply. One or two people would have probably scoffed at that buy, thinking he's going to do well to get a win out of this, let alone the heady heights that he's managed to reach so far. He's rattled off a few graded races along the way. Won at Cheltenham, won at Donny, and then he put the icing on the cake by winning at Kempton. Fully entitled to go to Cheltenham. Whether he's quite good enough to live with the likes of Pied Piper and Vauban is obviously a mute point. But look, he's there. He's a player on the day. I'm sure he'll run a decent race because he travels well, and he gets himself into a position where he's at least got a chance of winning because of his speed and his jumping, and we know he stays really well as well. So it's a credit to the yard, and yeah, I wish them well. He's just one of those horses you like and you want to see do well. But I genuinely don't think he's good enough to beat the two Irish horses. But even if he finishes like a creditable third or fourth or something like that, it'll still be regarded as a fantastic run. And knowing Milton, he'll probably run him at Aintree as well.
Yeah, well, why not if he's in good form and he's taking his racing well. The figures leave him with a little bit to find with the likes of Pied Piper, Vauban, even Phil Dore.
Well, they actually don't with Pied Piper. I mean, Pied Piper, his best time was 64 when he won at Cheltenham. Obviously, he could have gone a lot quicker than that if he'd have been all out to the line. So you could probably upgrade him to over 65, 66, 67-ish, that kind of mark, which is what Knight Salute did in the Adonis at Kempton. So technically he's on par, but I think there is a little bit more to come from Pied Piper, whereas the sort of like the lemon has been completely squeezed out of Knight Salute up to a point. So look, 67 is a very good time. I think he'll probably come second in on our sheet. So he's a player without shadow of a doubt.
If you had a match better him and Porticello on just good spring ground with a bit of dig in it, where would you go?
Oh, Knight Salute all day long. I think ground is very much key to Porticello. I think he's very ground dependent, like a lot of Gary Moore's juveniles are. The time that he's had good ground, he's run respectably, but he's looked really one-paced and he hasn't been able to quicken. He's a grinder, isn't he? So if he came up heavy in the Triumph, then all of a sudden he's a massive, massive player. But as it stands at the moment, the question you asked me, if it was to be run tomorrow on good to soft ground, I think I'd have Knight Salute all day long. Yeah,
I think he'd smother him for speed myself as well. Over at Fairyhouse, we saw another graded race for juveniles, and that was won by a KRLN in somewhat of a common canter. The race fell apart a lot. What did he achieve on the figures?
Yeah, good again, 67, Sam. So he's put himself back into the Triumph hurdle picture of Connections wanted to go down that route. Obviously, they've still got him in the Boodles. So we'll wait to see what they do there. My gut feeling is it's a JP horse. It'll go for a grade 1. And he's at least proven that partly his Leopardstown run wasn't quite him. I think Mark Walsh in his post-race interview was critical of himself, the way he rode him that day. He got him a little bit wide, didn't give him any cover, too far back, blah, blah, blah. And obviously, he was up against a very, very high quality of horse that found him out when, he didn't quite get the run of the race. So you know, he left that behind. But whether he's still good enough to beat Stable Companion Vauban is obviously up to question. But it just shows you how good those 2 or 3 horses were that day, who beat him quite readily. How good they are, Vauban, Fildor, and I think the Tide Turns was 4th. So they've all got to be respected in the Triumph Stroke Boodles, respectively.
Absolutely, yeah. Later on the card, not Cheltenham related, but we saw the Bobby Joe Chase at Grade 3. Only had 4 runners, but could have a significant impact on the Grand National. Certainly had a significant impact on the Grand National betting, with Any Second Now winning. Yeah,
it's been a good trial down the years, isn't it, this race? I can't remember all the horses that have run in it and won it that have gone on to win at Danger, but I know there's at least 2 or 3. So it has to be taken very, very seriously. And the time figure suggested that it was a very good trial. It was a 74 on our time figures, which is very, very healthy, particularly for a 4 in a race. So they've obviously gone a good gallop. It looked to all intents and purposes that Iscaria 10 was going to go and boost the Thyestes form yet again when he swept to the front 2 out, went about 2 or 3 lengths clear. But the stamina kicked in of the winner, Any Second Now, and he just did him on the line. Whichever way you strip it down, it was a good trial for both. Probably more for the winner than for the second, because you think over an extra distance of ground, Any Second Now will come into his own even more. And I think he's a worthy favourite, Sam, isn't he? He's already had a spin around the track, 3rd last year. He looks to have been trained to perfection by Ted Walsh, as is his want. You know, he's won it before. So he certainly knows what he's doing with a horse like this. And he's a bit of a character, Any Second Now, but he's got plenty of ability when his mind's on the job.
Yeah, very versatile horse, isn't he? I mean, obviously 2, 2.5, 3, 3.25, 4.25. Incredible horse, really, with a bit of latent speed as well, which will be a crucial factor come entry. Yeah, and he's a horse I like, I think, just because you can almost set your clock by him, can't you? Once those weights come out, all of a sudden he springs to life. So it's yeah, I thought that was a really good test for both of them. And Iscaria 10, as you say, giving the Thyestes form a boost, but also the National Hunt Chase form from last year, which is starting to stack up very nicely with Galvin, Snow Leopardess, Iscaria 10, all sorts of horses that have run well this season out of that. Well, so that's the National Hunt stuff that we've done, but we must just touch Lingfield. Obviously, the flat is incoming. I know this is a Cheltenham blog in a lot of respects, but we ought to pay homage to the Winter Derby, which I think was a track record. It was 105 on our figures, which for those who follow the flat racing closely will know that that's an absolutely top class time. Just put a little bit more skin on those bones, Andy, and put that into context with what Alan Kerr managed to achieve.
Yeah, well, our 2 sort of paths come to meet, don't they, on a Monday when we both analyse them in different ways. Obviously, I do the sectionals and he'll do the overalls, and then we both see what work we've got, and we think, goodness me, they both meet in the middle here. I knew straight away when I'd done the circuit time, the sectional, that this race had got to be good. A 1:53.3 circuit time is something I've never ever got when I've done a round track. I think 1:55 or something in and around that mark has been the quickest, usually in a Winter Derby, obviously because of the class. You occasionally get a good handicap. I think Menard Bridge ran 1:55 and changed last year when he beat Oslo. You're only dealing with a very, very high quality when you get a number like that. And then obviously you went and got 105. I can't recall 105, Sam. I mean, obviously you've been doing them for many, many years now. I know we've got a few 102s, 103s, the Batashes of this world, and the Grade 1 Group 1 horses. But can you recall 105?
Yeah, the Goldstone winner of this race might have done 102 or something like that. Dubai Warrior back in the day, but no, nothing. And even Wisset Hicken might have been very quick as well. That would have definitely been into 3 figures, but nothing as high as 105. Just having a quick look at the going allowances, it did tighten up a little bit from the Friday to the Saturday, but not ridiculously so. So it's not as if those figures have been distorted by a very fast track. You go back onto the 19th of February on the Saturday, the Lingfield going allowance was -3.5, exactly the same as it was on Saturday. So, it's not as if we're dealing with a vastly significantly different track, a very quicker, swifter track, which has tightened up immeasurably and has helped to distort the figure for Alan Kerr. So I think it's a fair representation. The card looked a fairly strong, well-balanced card through it. So, yeah, I mean, it might be a bit toppy, the 105 figure, but I couldn't really give it anything else with the likes of Hafita Len, Soldier's Minute, you know, on the card that have both knocked out really good times in the past. So I think I'm fairly happy with it.
No, I think you hang on, Sam. You know, it looked a quality race. They went hard all the way to the line, and I think Alan Kuno goes to Dubai, the Shuma Classic. So at least we get a chance of seeing that form represented quite quickly. Normally, you have to wait till sort of April and May for these horses to come back out again, but they'll be over in Dubai in another month's time. And I think the winner, the second, has got to try and defend his Dubai Turf crown. So there's an immediate possibility of making a few quid out of these two, or out of the race in general.
Let's hope so. Yeah, there's I saw a little bit of criticism for Rab Havlin on the second, Lord North, and there was talk that he needed the run badly, but he's run a really good race when you look at the data afterwards. You know, he needs to be beaten a couple of lengths. Well,
they probably were disappointed because they got beat. Obviously, the favourite, you know, he looked from the mark of 123 as though it was his for the taking. But there's no disgrace in finishing second in such a number. He's run his fastest ever time, so they obviously haven't got that knowledge that we have of the figure. But I think if he was to show them the work, then they'd probably think, oh, fair enough. We probably didn't run too badly after all.
Okay, brilliant, Andy. I think we'll bring it to a close there. Thanks for your findings and your results on the weekend's action. And we'll be back on the YouTube channel with probably a few more Cheltenham previews leading up to the race. I think we've got to do our friend or foe, where we have a look at the favourites, whether they're good things or bad things, bankers or blowouts. And we might even try and put up another lucky 15, Andy, see how we go with that.
Yeah, trying to dig a few bigger prices and some of the handicaps I think that haven't been discussed so far. So plenty to get our teeth into between now and when we next are on.
Absolutely, less than 2 weeks to go now. Bring it on. Thanks very much for your time this morning, Andy. I'll speak to you soon.
Cheers, Sam.